about the direction that we're going. I've got a bit of experience, but I feel the need to sort of get it out there and allow people to sort of get an insight into where I think the industry is going in the commercial and residential space. So you can jump onto a website, LinkedIn, you'll find this stuff, and it's a good source of knowledge. Now, starting off a year of change, we've definitely seen emerging of organisations to start with. So that's interesting for you guys, probably less out of my space. I'm less involved with associations, the particular associations, but it's definitely started some change. The major change are these two babies. So Volume 1 and Volume 2, the NCC 2019. Who knows about these documents? Everyone? Hands up. Okay, you all know about it. Who's read them? Okay, okay, about 3% of people have read them. Why not? Why haven't you read this? This is fundamental to your industry. You should be reading this because you're responsible for making what's inside there happen. Some big changes, some major changes, and everyone in this room that has a part to play in providing products to the industry needs to be across this. Hopefully I'm going to be able to tell you a bit of, I guess, give you some quick knowledge about what's in those at the moment and what's going to go into them later on. So first of all, just a quick one, energy efficiency. Sure, look, it's been around for a while. We told a few stories back in 2000. We said we're going to be energy efficient. We really didn't do nothing for a couple of years. Very, very low levels of energy efficiency were slowly introduced into the housing sector, and then in 2006 there was a bit of a jump, a bit more stringency from a commercial and residential point of view. As we went to 2010, this is where the commercial market really started to change. We started to adopt those system U values, system solar heat gain coefficients. Now, there was a presentation earlier by Mike. He went into a bit of detail. I'm not going to go into the details of system U value and solar heat gain coefficients. You should all know that. If you don't, there's the door there. This is your business, not mine. The big change was the fact that suddenly we went through a process of, hey, we're going to include those frames. We've got to include them. How are we going to include them? What does it mean to our industry? We went through a process. We went through those permits. Oh yeah, we'll just use the 2008 permit. We use the 2009 permit, don't worry about it. By the time 2012, 13 came through, that's when we actually started to pick up on, well, we're going to have to do something. You saw companies suddenly putting thermally broken systems to the market. In 2013, things started to change. I was working in the commercial industry at the time, and suddenly we said, oh, geez, we're going to have to thermally break systems, huh? How about that? And we slowly went to the point of improving the quality of thermal breaks that were applied to these facade systems. And now we're in 2019, where we've seen fundamental shifts in what's expected from commercial buildings. By the time we get through the next couple of years of ABCB consultancy for the next step of proposed changes in the National Construction Code, for 2022, we're going to see more changes. We're going to see a level of stringency that is at least equivalent to that in the commercial sector. It won't make any sense if there's not. And that's roughly the level of increase there. So, keeping things as simple as possible, and I do tend to waffle, so I'll watch the time. In terms of drivers, better efficiency, the NCC, is it doing its part? Okay, let's just do a straight yes or no. Hands up, who thinks the NCC is a driver for better efficiency in window systems? Okay, there's a few optimistic people there. Hello. So look, there's a couple of you who are fairly optimistic, saying that it is a driver for better energy efficiency. Of course, it's important to state what that actually is. Energy efficiency comes with, it is a product of the ability for something to reduce heat transfer, but there is also residual things to it. It's about thermal comfort too. It's about producing a better quality product. And we're starting to see that sort of language come through in NCC 2019. going down that path a little bit further, what is the availability of products on the market? Do you think there's a good availability of products on the market today? Hands up for people that think there is good availability of products for commercial and residential buildings. I think I scared a few people with the last feedback. Yeah, look, there are some products out there that are not bad. There's lots of products out there that are rubbish. Absolute rubbish. And they shouldn't be built, shouldn't be used. So as we go into this, I'm going to start answering some of those questions. I want to just be able to simply be able to say, is the National Construction Code doing its bit, and are energy efficient products available to the market? Starting with 2 data sets. Just going to keep it simple. Lucky enough, the CSIRO, they released a data set that enabled me to grab lots of data. 63,000 Class 1 dwellings and 35,000 Class 2 apartments. So I'm going to use that data. I'm not going to use all of it because I'm only going to look at a few different states to keep things simple. But I'm going to mesh that with some of the data available from WRS. So 24,000 residential window systems and 14,700, that was a couple of weeks ago, I think that's probably changed already, commercial window systems. So the idea of this presentation is to try and use that for the residential component, to give you a flavour for what's out there, to hopefully allow you to make some more decisions about where we're going in the residential industry. First up, in terms of the market availability, purely from a WRS perspective, this is what we're looking at in terms of what is determined as single glazing by WRS, and then the U values running down the bottom. There's probably a few anomalies down there. There's some crazy low U values for single glazing. Let's ignore those, but the big picture stuff is that the vast majority of residential products on the WRS database being supplied to market are greater than a system U value of 5. That is not good. This is not the 1800s. That is not performance. Okay? This type of product, while it has limited application, and it does have application, but it is limited. It should not be used in any space where someone is living. From a double glazing perspective, we see a nicer curve. This is the sort of curve we want to see, right? So we see it nicely tapering up and down, sitting at 3 to 3.5 system U value. So we can be more confident there and say, well, look, there's products there, right? Absolutely. So we've got systems, different scenario there. We've got a lot of poor performing products being put to market. And the aspiration of much better products are also being put to market. I'm not saying that these are great products. These ones here in the orange, the 3 to 4 system U value, they're not great. But they are much better. So let's start crunching some numbers now. What do the percentages look like? It's not bad. 61% of that on the WRS database is double glazing. The rest single. We see the combination of those two curves and the graph on the right. We see that peak in the 3 to 3.5 for the double glazing, and then that massive peak for the single glazing. So we sort of got this two-pronged thing going on, right? We've got a load of stuff at the race to the bottom, over in the brown, coincidentally. And then you've got the yellow in the middle that is being driven by something. What is it being driven by? We'll probably find out. We're going to find out by looking at a few case studies. We're going to look at data that has been, certificates that have been issued to the CSIRO for NADA's ratings. Okay, it's the best way to look at it. And we're looking at homes on the left, apartments on the right, system U values running down the bottom, and then we've got a few years. We've got the blue for the 2016, the orange, the grey, the yellow for 2017, 18 and 19. So what we can see immediately in the homes is that while there are good products available to market, the vast majority of homes that are issuing certificates for compliance have a system U value of 6 to 7 in homes in New South Wales. That's fairly miserable. In apartments, we do have a swing. We've got a swing all the way over to the right. It's still peaking up very high, but we're starting to see, if you look at the 4 to 5, and there's this big jump up in that 4 to 5 since 2016 to 2019. Anyone hazard a guess? Shout out if you think you know why that we're starting to go that way. Sorry? Basics, yeah. Basics is a good response. I mean, we've got various things pushing us. I think the big thing is probably that the volumes of these apartments are getting so much smaller that they're becoming more efficient, and the procurement of glazing for a lot of these apartments are coming from overseas as well. The big stuff, we get a lot of big stuff. It's easier to get better, more energy efficiency out of stuff overseas because by default it has a IGU low E coating with argon in there already, so it's doing something. So the New South Wales scenario, it's where you really expect it to be. It's not in a great space at all. So going, is the NCC doing enough in New South Wales? Probably not. Your policy there, what you like, you've got a bunch of people doing energy ratings. What are they doing there? Putting forward poor quality buildings to market. When we look at the percentages and we try and ascertain some level of change over that period between 2016 and 2019 for homes and apartments, we can see those apartments, there's quite a shift there from 92% single glazing to 74% in a few years. That's decent. Homes, people are still investing in those kitchens, right? There's big saunas and bubble baths and stuff. That's what people are spending their money on. They're not spending their money on glass. They don't understand. We don't have an educated market for people to be spending money. My brother's a builder. He's told me time and time again, hey, I keep trying to push a double glaze system, thermally broken system. I'll buy it from China. I'll get it cheap. Still don't want it. Not interested. Victoria, a much greater range, a different market, a colder market. For homes, we're seeing that there are much greater performance aspirations, so we've got sort of more down towards the 4, 5, 3, 4, but still there's a lot in that rubbish range of 5 to 6, 6 to 7. The apartments, fairly standardised between 4 and between 3 and 5. We are seeing some changes. There are some improvements, and you see in the 2019 the yellow in the 3 to 4 for the apartments. That's jumped up a bit as well. So we're seeing significant changes, really. And then when we look at the percentage of the market share, we can see, hey, the homes again not doing much, no one cares, but the apartments have gone from 60% to 86% market share. Like, that's fairly significant in 4 years. That's really interesting data. Of course, our commercial market, what's happening there? So we can say that the NCC is not particularly driving the discussion very well. They have all this policy in place. It is going to change, though. And it's going to change because it has to keep up with the level of stringency now set by the commercial market. So I believe that those products there that I was pretty much slamming and saying, hey, look, they're no good, they're rubbish, they've got to go. They're not going to be suitable for a market come 2022 because we've got targets to meet in terms of energy efficiency, greenhouse gas emission reductions. They are being driven by government. While there is a false prophecy out there that NAVAS is going to save the world, and a NAVAS rating of 7 is a good thing, and NAVAS rating of 7 is nothing. It's a small single glazing. You may as well throw NAVAS out because it's a useless system. It doesn't work. It doesn't drive results. And with the last speaker, I've got to tell you the fact that we don't police this stuff. It all means nothing if we don't police it. Okay? So if the government picks up, if the government starts driving that agenda about actually looking after what they have set policy for, then that's the only way we're going to get an educated market, the only way we're going to be able to deliver. But what we can say is that the commercial market, the indications that we're seeing on the commercial market are very indicative of what is likely to happen in 2022. Again, let's look at words. Start the conversation. Similar profiles, just much less numbers in the database. I'd also say that this particular element of the database is probably driven by residential products also being in the commercial database. So I think this data is absolutely skewed, but it was the best data we had available to us. So what we can say is there's still a lot of poor performing products out there, and they represent a very similar market share, which is amazing. Remember, the residential market share for double glazing was 61. This is 62. That's very close to me. That's by no coincidence. So unfortunately, I can't get the CSRO data and talk about certificates that have been sent to them to analyse where the market is. I can only go on what we have with us today now. The NCC 2019 facade calculator is a calculator that, unfortunately, I was responsible for delivering. It is, I only say unfortunately because it's a spreadsheet. Today, in this day and age, we don't need spreadsheets. We've got a whole cloud computing world that we can do everything far faster and simpler and collect analytical data to make it far more interesting. We shouldn't be playing around with spreadsheets. But I was involved in the project anyway. And the project was for commercial buildings, volume 1. And the scope of the project was to build the J1.5 equations and calculations into a spreadsheet for users like yourselves to get to grips with. There's a lot of stuff going in there. Have anyone seen that spreadsheet? Okay, feel free not to throw those tomatoes now. So the spreadsheet in itself, it has a lot in there. This is a dangerous part of the presentation because I could start going really downhill and start talking about the idiosyncrasies of equations in the commercial modelling space. We don't want to do that, but what we want to say is that there is lots of building typologies that are meant to be assessed. I'm going to talk about a couple here, just to give us a flavour of where the market is come May next year. So the energy efficiency component comes in May next year, and we're all going to have to, slowly but surely, adopt our products and supply to the requirements of this market. So, we'll go through it. This first case study. We're going to do an office here. Well, that's actually in Victoria. 2,000 square metres of floor plate, 8 floors. Typical 70% window to wall ratio. Throw some standard curtain wall up there. Not very good. System U value 3.8. So heat gain coefficient 0.28. And we're going to put in some spandrels and a system R value of 0.65. Now, again, I'm trying to stop myself going down that rabbit hole here, but one thing you've got to point out is that there is a minimum backstop for thermal performance for all systems. So a standard spandrel system of 0.65 cannot meet the requirements of NCC 2019. If there's one point that you guys take away in terms of limiting factors in NCC 2019, think about spandrels, honestly. They're very small. If you're supplying curtain wall systems, you've got a massive amount of aluminium. It will have very, very low performance value. Today, we just haphazardly throw an R value of 2.8 for a spandrel. The facade industry has known for years that it's impossible to meet that value unless you start building out the back of your wall systems, which then negates the whole point of going curtain wall in the first place because you're looking to maximise your floor area. It's a really interesting area, and it's an area that is massively frustrating because we now have 8 options in the National Construction Code that you might as well ignore because they can't meet the National Construction Code's own minimum backstop. Yeah. So, let's look at this example, right? So, for this example, we're going to go look at the chart on the left and the right. So this is method 1, okay? So I won't go into the idiosyncrasies of the methods, but they are, a target is determined as per the building class and the location, okay? In our is the target. Okay, let's look at the left chart. Wall glazing U values, the window to wall ratios are along the bottom from 30 to 70%. So if we're looking for our magical 70%, that orange bar should be below the blue. See how far above it we are? On a standard procurable curtain wall system today. Okay? That's where we sit. We haven't a chance. Go all the way down to the other side. See that? 30%? That 30% is window to wall ratio. With the standard curtain wall system today, we can't even get a 30% window to wall ratio. Not a great outcome for architecture, I suspect. On the solar admittance, let's think solar heat gain coefficient. Solar admittance is just about heat coming into the building that you'll have to get rid of. These have to be met together. So you've got to get the wall glazing U value and the solar admittance, get your little bar below that blue on each one in order to get a meaningful strategy. At the moment we don't have a meaningful strategy here at all because the solar admittance, yes, we can get 30% window to wall ratio, but over on the other side, we've got nothing. There are alternative methods. Again, I won't go into the detail, but once you use the facade calculator, it'll produce two methods for you. The pink is the second method, and all it says is there's a bit of leniency, but all it does is show you that you're pretty much in the same space of that solar admittance sort of opportunity. But you still have a massive limitation on your ability to get window to wall ratios that you would want from an architectural perspective, from a project perspective with curtain wall systems. Now, of course, this is all deemed to satisfy or dissatisfy in this case, right? So it's the first step is to try and see if you can meet the performance requirements of the NCC. As a lot of us will know, there's a verification pathway, a second pathway that allows us to establish whether we can still get it through that way today. The verification pathway typically used is called JV3 modeling. Commercially, it's an absolute joke. It allows you to set a benchmark and move the benchmark any way you want to improve on that benchmark. So let me go through that again. You get a reference building. You want to model the reference building. Reference building's not quite bad enough. You can make the reference building worse in order for your pretty standard facade system to get over the line. The facade calculator now stipulates the actual JV3 values to be used. So I can create a curve of those values. So the curve here that you can see on the right is the JV3 verification reference building. So what you must surpass from a fabric point of view in order to get your project over the line. The orange line is solar heat gain coefficient, the blue line is U value. And what we can see in summary is that the performance of the reference building by virtue of the calculations now is much higher. We don't have a floating crazy reference building that is really as rubbish as you can make it. We've got a reference building that is much higher. So the effort is much higher across the board. So it's very interesting. Grab me if you want more information on this after this, because I do need to start picking up. We've got about 14 minutes left to go. So yes, we can do things, we can improve things. We can go to a system U value of 2.4 instead of the value of 3.8. We can up that spandrel and let's theoretically get it above 1. And we can get to a space in the deemed to satisfy provisions, the chart on the left being the U value, where you can get solutions in and around the sort of 50-60% mark. Okay, they are possible. Of course, the reference building doesn't change, so we've still got a really onerous reference building. So what that means is the deemed satisfied provisions might take you to a 50-60% window to wall ratio. But it's not going to, the verification pathway is still going to be very, very onerous. So it's not a clear, let's do the verification pathway, get it over the line. Those days will be gone, and there's another overlay about thermal comfort, which I won't go into. In summary, on the commercial side of things, what we see is a default position whereby which high-performance double-glazed systems cannot be ignored. We're talking, decent soft low-E coatings are going to become mandatory because we have spectral selectivity to deal with. We want high VLT values, but we want maximum solar control, okay? We have to break those frames, not necessarily for the vision area, but for the wall area on current wall systems. That is going to be your bugbear, how you get that wall area up. Overall, you'd have to think that the overall objective from a commercial perspective is to drive down the amount of glazing. Glazing in buildings, when too high, is a major problem. Okay, it's a major problem for comfort, for energy efficiency. It's great for aesthetics, although so many glass boxes can only achieve so much in terms of a modern city, I guess. We're looking at 40-50% window-to-wall ratios from an economic perspective. That's where we're going to see the market going. In terms of costs, you can spread costs around as much as I can. 5, 8, 15% depends on when the project goes to tender, how ferocious people are going to go through that tender process in terms of competitiveness. So we've got a big change there, guys, big change. On the other side of things, aged care facilities. Let's start to wrap this up. We're going to see a very similar format to the office presentation. Stick and standard awnings, fixed. Standard system, average system values of 4.5. Precast walls with metal frames. 600mm shading, again using that commercial calculator. Same story, low window-to-wall ratios is the only way to go in terms of getting this stuff over the line with today's procurable standard products, okay? That roughly are in line with probably better products on the Words database, and they're not good products, they're standard products. So we've still got major challenges there. The JV3 pathway is not going to help us out. Probably, there's probably 35% window-to-wall ratio across the whole building that you could work with. So we're in the same sort of position. We've got to go through and improve our glazing. We're going to go from a 4.5 to a 3 on the system U value point of view. Solar heat gain coefficient. We're going to leave that as it is because we've got that 600mm shading doing the job. And then on the precast with the metal frames and thermal break, we're going to introduce a thermal break rather. You might struggle to find a thermal break that isn't combustible, but that's another thing that we've done in the NCC. We've introduced a driver for thermally breaking wall systems, but we've got no products because all thermal breaks for wall systems for this particular application are combustible. So you've got to fire test your wall. Anyway, if we improve and get to a point where we've got better systems than that, we're back up to the 50% scenario. I mean, 50% aged care facility, it's there or thereabouts, isn't it? You don't want too much glazing. You've got a greater drive for occupant comfort. So I think you've got a solution there that is potentially easier to get over the line from a commercial point of view. Again, look at the opportunities from a glazing perspective are the same. You've got to go down and consider the thermally break in a system. Its value. Maybe look at different types of framing systems. Once you've really topped out on your glazing and you've topped out on your framing systems, warm edge spaces, absolutely, go down that route. All of this is going to come at a cost. But the sooner you get ahead of this, the better it is, because you're going to have to tell people, whether it's your boss or whether it's your client, that this stuff is going to impact the ability for your proposal to actually get through, because this is a major, major challenge. So, from my perspective, having a bit of understanding across the years, is NCC a driver for better energy efficient windows? Not really. We've gone through a scenario by which meaningful introductions were brought in 2006. Today, we are still procuring mostly in the single glaze scenario. Like it's still, on average, the highest thing that we're procuring at a level that is fairly ridiculous. Like it's unheard of. We don't have, we don't have the coldest climate, but I'm from Melbourne. I'm uncomfortable in my home all the time. And I've got double glazing. And I'm still uncomfortable because I've got a small apartment and I'm too close to the window. The re-radiation effect of that double glazing impacts you. We have big changes though. The commercial stuff, I think I've tried to make the case that the commercial stuff is well and truly embedded now. It's not going anywhere. You've got to change up if you're playing around with Q values above 4. You've got to change up or your business is going to struggle. You've got to start turning off some of your coating lines because your monolithic lines because they're going to be less useful in the future. They're not going to stand to have the competitiveness that we have in the industry at the moment because that's going to fall by the wayside and it should do because this is 2019. It needs to change. From a market availability point of view, we can argue that there are products out there. I think what products are going to be hitting the sweet spot in the future from a residential point of view? I would say I asked a friend there today what products he thought. He was pushing down towards the low sort of 1.5s. I would say probably average U values in the next couple of years are going to be 2.5 to 3. I don't think that's great. I'm just procuring systems myself. My average U values are 0.85. It's completely possible. That's not market. We want to talk about 80% of the market. We'll talk 80% of the market, 90% of the market. We've got to be talking about what is mostly procured. For residential buildings, we are in a different space. We're going to see the qualification of that as we go through this next round of what-ifs for 2022. And we're going to see changes that will benefit both the product, the industry, the comfort and the energy efficiency of buildings. So that's about me. If you want to be the guy with the head in the sand, feel free. You're not going to enjoy it. I'm going to come and give you a big boot up the arse. Get out of your low-performing space and start adopting better measures for residential and commercial buildings. That is me done. Any questions? Tony? I agree. I understand that. I do. Yeah, I completely agree with Tony. He's absolutely right. We have a situation, I was told another story today, where a lady was bought a sort of a market-ready home by a mass builder. The mass builder said, okay, that's fine, there's a few asterisks on your energy report. You've got to pay for those asterisks in addition to the product, to the house. So they said, okay, you're going to pay for that. So the main contractor market is just trying to completely sideline that altogether. I've had debates about $2 per square metre for introducing membranes to the market. I've had all sorts of strange conversations, and I completely agree that the main contractors are probably the largest ones that have the impact on where this goes from a delivery perspective. They're the ones that are changing the game. By the fact that we can see worse ratings that generally show a movement towards better quality products. We have the system which is broken that can be fixed. There's nothing wrong with the calculation engine behind it. But the main contractors have got to kick up their bum, and I see the risk, the appetite for pointing fingers as probably the reason why we're going to see more movement in that space. I think we have systems that are failing, we've got buildings that are structurally failing. The amount of projects on the consultancy side that I work in that are failing from a condensation point of view is an absolute joke. Every main contractor has a problem with condensation, whether they're going to admit it to you or not. Every single one. they don't, they've got fairies working them. Because I don't know how they got away with it. So, completely agree, there's a responsibility there. Unless government go on and guide people and give people the, or undertake the policing that is required. Like, as an industry, yeah, you're limited by that.
Thank you for that question. We'll just we'll get a microphone to Russell and David are wandering around with a microphone. It just makes it easy for the people up the back to hear, let alone speak up. Just grab that mic. Thanks. Thank you. Let us know also when you grab the mic who you're from, who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, Darren, Mark, Hendricks, Dow Windows. Has the NCC actually got an idea for 2022 what the U values and solar heat gains are going to be for window products that will be specified onto the market?
No, I'd say it's 2 years of useless consultancy that's going to determine a magical value based on the cost efficiency ratio of this, that and the other for a number to represent thermal transmittance. We're going to see a long process going to be drawn out, we're going to waste hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of time, and we won't get a magic number. There's lots of justification work that needs to be done. To slightly labour over that question, one of the big things about the NCC 2022 is that we have thermal comfort to take into account. So at the moment, you go to the NATO's website, you can get a 7-star building, they're single glazed. At the moment, they're proposing let's go 7-star and 0 energy. What's the point of going 0 energy if you've got single glazed? It's just ludicrous. So we've got a long way to go until we can appreciate what that measure is. My feel is going to be 2.5 to 3, something like that, which isn't massively performing, but on an average, awnings, casements, small windows, etc., it's much better than what we have at the moment.
Yeah, my sense is that industry will struggle with the volumes if the regulations come through without that knowledge being imparted or without that information gearing up industry to be able to meet that when it's due. So we have an issue now.
We do.
Thank you for the question. Do we have any other questions? Just one, there's 2 here, so we'll get one there. There's one up the back. Can I ask the guy at the back just to put his hand up just so we can see where you are? We'll get a microphone to you.
I guess the problem we have in the industry is not violent. For the last 20 years, there was always talk about better improvement in buildings and better U values, and never anything really came to fruition. So I think most people in the industry probably think, there might be a lot of talk, like you said before, and probably there won't be much outcome in the short term, and maybe that's one of the problems why the industry doesn't want to change unless the government is going forward and says, well, these are the figures we need to achieve, and probably achieve in 2 or 3 years' time, or 4 years' time, so we can adjust. Unless that one is happening, we're just probably wasting our time again.
Yeah, look, the commercial side of things has told that story. The stringency at commercial level now is indicative of what's coming in residential. It has to be. It has to be. So you've already got the message there. Commercial industry has moved on, much higher performance. Residential is going to follow. It's just that we don't know to what level and to what degree of pain we'll go through.
Andrew Gogan from Daly Aluminium. Just onto commercial, excuse my ignorance, but you mentioned policing after installation, prior to condensation. What are your thoughts on methods of policing or anything to enforce and prevent the cowboys from putting in non-thermal or uncompliant bars?
No, I mean, not really. I mean, to be honest, that wouldn't be my area of specialism or real interest. But I sort of default to that position now because of where we are, because what's actually happening. The fact that we've got products that are available that are not being procured because there's no system that's accepting them and being responsible for them. So how we move forward, I think there's probably better people in the room to answer that question. Go around and kick a few people up the bum. That's what I'd do.
All right, thank you for that question. We've got time for one final question, if there is. There is, just on the back there. Thank you. We'll make that the last one.
Thank you. Michael O'Keefe from Capital. When you look at section data calculator and the simplicity of how it looks at the ratios and comes up with the values that are required, is not the problem lie in the way that the NFRC presents the window values? You put your graphs up there showing the window at 4.5, but if we look at the punitive sizes that are the indicative volume sizes in the NFRC protocols, that's where the problem lies, in my view. Until we can rate these windows at a representative size as how they're presented in the commercial arena, we're always going to be on the back foot with frame to glass ratios.
Sure.
What's your view there?
Well, I think that you're absolutely right. It's a part of the discussion. As some of you will know, I've got a piece of software coming to the market in the next week and a half that is going to address that problem. So it is an issue. It's an issue that is ongoing. We have to change that motivation to understand the actual architectural intent and the actual performance in order to get better systems internally. So there are solutions out there to do that, and they're coming very quickly for the commercial side of things. It's all entirely possible. It's just that we've been working in the industry with a framework that is regimented by NFRC protocols. The view is that we've got to stick with those apples for apples type discussion. We want to compare A with B fairly, but the reality is that the bespoke nature of commercial and increasingly residential does not honour any system that says, okay, that system is 2 metres by 2 metres, let's compare that with 2 metres by 2. It doesn't make any sense in this day and age to do it. So we wouldn't model a wall system inaccurately. Why would we do it for a glazing system? There's solutions.
Okay, thank you for that question. Thank you for all of the questions. And Darren, thank you very much for your presentation. Please thank Darren, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you also to Meridian Glass for sponsoring that presentation. If you head down to the exhibition